because the board.
Welcome to the Tuesday, June 17th, 2025 Troutdale Urban Renewal Agency meeting. We'll start off with roll call.
Director Andrews.
He has a very good excuse.
Director Allen. Here. Director Martin.
I'm here, thank you.
Director White.
Here.
Director Davidson.
Here.
Director Leamy.
Here.
Chair Ritma.
Here. All right. We'll start off with agenda item number 2, public comment. Public comment on non-agenda and consent agenda items is welcome at this time. Public comment on agenda items will be taken at the time the item is considered. Public comment should be directed to the presiding officer and limited to matters of community interest or related to matters which may or could come before council. Each speaker shall be limited to 5 minutes for each agenda item unless a different amount of time is allowed by the presiding officer with the consent of council. So we'll start on Zoom. Does anyone wish to address the Urban Renewal Agency of Troutdale during public comment? Seeing no one, does anyone here in the chamber wish to address the Urban Renewal Agency during public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment. I neglected to ask Ray if there is an agenda update.
Yes, there is, Mr. Mayor, Chair of the URA Board. We are going to be moving 6.1, which is a selection of the development team and the exclusive negotiating agreement motion, to a new 4.3. It made sense to follow after the report about the development of the URA to also then consider the motion to enter into the exclusive negotiating agreement. So there's a new 4.3, which is actually 6.1 at the end of the agenda. And at the end, we'll have a short staff comment.
All right, very good. I don't know, who votes first? Sarah?
Director Allen.
All right. I will invite Carol, you to handle the consent agenda.
Consent agenda 3.1 minutes, January 21st, 2025, Urban Renewal Agency regular meeting, and April 22nd, 2025, Urban Renewal Agency special meeting.
Do I have a motion to adopt?
So, I move adoption of the consent agenda.
And a second?
A second.
All right. Please read the roll.
Sure. Director Allen.
Yes.
Director One.
Yes.
Chair Ritma.
Yes.
Director White.
Yes.
Director Davidson.
Yes.
Director Leamy.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 4, 4.1, a progress report on the Confluence Site development project. Ray.
Thank you. I'm going to be reporting simply on the trail progress out there because we'll be talking about the development progress in just a few minutes under the other agenda item. But now I'm going to share my screen with you because my report is going to give you pictures I took today. Pull it up here. There we go. And we will. Slideshow here. There we go. All right, we're gonna walk you through this. We've had a lot of good construction days in the last month or two, which has been great. For me, it's very interesting because when you see it on 2D on paper, it's hard to really imagine what it's going to be. So what we are here, we're gonna work our way through, and this is a picture coming from the depot. So you're working your way down under the bridge. If you see this post over there on the right, I kind of have my little pointer over there, Interestingly, those things are sunk into the ground with electrical wiring above them. That's where all the light poles are going to be attached. As opposed to where you see them on streets attached to the sidewalk, since there is no sidewalk cement, they're buried in the ground. So this is working way down there. As you can see, the retaining wall along the left is going to be there, and then the pathway you can see is just where the gravel is there. Now, as you keep going down farther, there we go. Went too far. Here's the next step down. This is where they're going to start putting together a bridge made out of steel that should be delivered next week, I think. It's already been pre-bent and ready. But you can see as you walk down off to the right there, that's what the view of the Sandy River is today, all cleared up right there. That's the confluence of Beaver Creek coming in right out of sight, but on the below you there is where the Beaver Creek comes in. So great views as you're walking down the pathway, riding your bike down through there, and then you work your way underneath. There's more of those. It's going to still be a bridge under the bridge that's going to be going underneath. Those are all there ready to go. Again, for the steel, should be delivered in the next week. It's going to be going there. Then you come up out of there and work your way up there, and you can obviously see the tower, and that's where the end of the bridge, under the bridge, is going to be. And then the trail will continue along that retaining wall you see in the center. And again, we're just walking north here, and you get up here, and then you see in the center there that large block area in the center there. I'll show you the other side of it, but that's one of the play areas. There are 3 play areas that are built all the way along the pathway for people to stop. Picnic tables, benches are going to be along there, and that's as you walk up, that's going to be one of them there. And as you see, this is what it looks like on the other side of it. Those are designed and staggered to be such a way that they're climbing rocks for kids to climb up along them. And then between the stairs and those rocks right there, that's going to be a slide that kids can just play on the rocks, slide down the slide. It's a little play area that's attached to the trail itself, but it's off to the side. Then you keep walking up the pathway a little bit farther, and you can see those posts there where the light poles are going. You kind of follow the trail is going to be along there, that side where they're not done. They haven't graveled it yet or not. But then you keep going north, and you'll see on the right up there, that is the observation deck that sticks out to the riverside of the trail for a great place to stop and look. And I got up on that mound on the left there, and I stood up and took this picture. So this is the view from the observation area that they've got all done. And the whole point of doing this was, you can see, this is supposed to match the gorge, the arches, the exposed rock, the pillars there, very similar to what you see if you take the old historic Columbia Highway. So we brought that theme into there. So once you leave there, continuing north again, you head up here, and this is another area that's going to be on the left of the path going north, another play area. And this is the sidewalk that goes up into the play area where benches and picnic tables are going to be. So people have a third place that they can stop along the way and relax, and kids can play. And then you keep going on up. Oh, that was the second one. This is the third one straight ahead. You can see the third play area going through the trees there along the pathway. And then this is the third play area, the northernmost play area, that's going to have, again, all the amenities there for kids to play, parents to sit and watch right along the trail. That's obviously going to be poured really soon. And then I finished my slideshow with, this is the view looking downriver, upriver from the observation deck. Just a beautiful view of the Sandy River and Troutdale there. So it's going to be really wonderful as we're getting along there. So it's kind of nice to see it really begin taking shape. And so, Mayor, that is all I have for the report in regards to how the construction of the trail is going.
Well, it does look really wonderful. Any questions, comments from the agency?
Can we make that slide go into the river?
That would be fun.
Not a good idea, probably.
I don't think the Fish and Wildlife people in FEMA would be thrilled with that.
Or our insurance.
Or, yeah, our insurance, that's true.
But anyway, all right. I'll invite any public comment at this time. Anyone on Zoom wish to comment on the progress report that Ray just gave? And not seeing anybody. Is there somebody? I can't tell.
Jerry's phone.
Hey, this is Sherry. Just had a question. Is the pathway eventually getting paved?
Yes, the pathway will be asphalt paved.
Okay. And then up on that bridge area, the lifted part, what will that be?
That will all be, I believe, steel grates. It's all gonna be safe for bicyclists, that's the key. And I believe, I'm looking at Erica, I got the plans, I can look, but yeah, I believe it's steel grates. There's also gonna be a cage underneath the railroad bridge in case a locomotive falls off, you'll be safe. There's lighting all the way along too, so yeah, it will be steel grates, very small holes, of course, because water can go up if there's a high water issue or things like that, but they're small enough that bikes can ride on it and little kids' feet won't fall through it.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else on? I guess I have to look for the little hand. How about here in the room? Anyone care to comment on the progress report on the trail, the Confluence Site? All right. Well, thank you, Ray. We'll move on to 4.2, Town Center Advisory Board's review and recommendation from the RFQ for development. Confluence Site and Erica, Marley, and I see on the list, I see Tanny.
Will is unavailable, so
All right.
we have our vice chair and I am the comic relief.
All right. Well, hey, great. Why don't you state your names?
We will here, just a second. Good evening, Chair and board members. I'm Erica Conrad, Community Development Director.
I'm Marley Boxler, Economic Development Coordinator.
Tanny Stephenson, TCAB Vice Chair.
Adrian Kester, TCAB representative.
And we are here this evening to present to you the Town Center Advisory Board report and recommendation for the RFQ that went out for the urban renewal site, the Confluence. Before we get started, I'm going to actually save you a couple of slides. I think we all know where the site is located, and I think we all know about the history of the site. It was used as an agricultural industrial site for over 100 years. It's now part of it's the city's only urban renewal area. And the city spent a lot of time and money to clean up that site because it was a brownfield to get it up to development standards between 2006 and today. Earlier this year, the city decided to once again put out a request for proposal for development on the site. The Town Center Advisory Board, TCAB, they really had to understand the goals of the URA and the objectives that are in the plan document itself, which I think is all attached to your agenda this evening and can be found online. And really understand the site constraints and opportunities that it has. And then there is a direct need to balance those goals with the site, with the market realities of today. So things have changed in the past 20 years. We are now seeing higher vacancy rates for office and commercial development within the region. A lot of people say that currently our market is over retailed, and there's a lot of economic uncertainty right now about policies coming down from the federal administration. And then, as I know all of you are quite aware, Oregon and the nation, we're seeing housing shortages for all types of housing. So the RFQ process and timeline this year, we published an RFQ in early February. In March, Marley and I had a walking tour of the site with interested folks. We invited them to come out to learn about the site, to see the work that was being done on the trail, and answered questions. And then in March, TCAB met and they drafted some RFQ evaluation criteria and interview questions. Then in April, the deadline for the RFQ was on April 4th. And then TCAB met again to review and kind of to recommend the next steps to the URA board on what the process was gonna be, what the process was gonna look like. The URA board met, they selected those to be on the interview panel. And then the TCAB or actually the interview panel met with the development team. We met with the proposal. We only had one proposal, and I'm gonna get to that here in just a second. TCAB debriefed on that proposal and is now making a recommendation to the board this evening. So the development proposal that we received one proposal. It came from the development team, made up of Ethos, Time Equities, and NATO Development. The construction team was Brimett Construction, a local construction team, and Hacker Architecture. So the RFQ proposal really aims to extend the experience of downtown Troutdale, to connect to nature, and overall to create a meaningful community space. Remember their proposal, what they're giving you in their proposal is one, their qualifications, and two, this really high level concept plan that's gonna be refined and worked over time. The development team really emphasized connections, so a lot of how you access the site. They showed that. They showed different public gathering spaces and a walkable layout. And they also showed a mix of uses, including multifamily residential, townhomes, retail and dining experiences, and a hotel. And they are really taking an approach that any development to occur on that site through this team will be of high quality architecture. So in this graphic before you, it really talks about extending the experience of downtown Troutdale. And I wish I had a pointer here. But they are really looking at creating the same kind of extending that downtown experience with block links down along the Confluence Site and creating a good street network throughout the site, as well as using connections such as the trail and sidewalks through the outlet mall. And they also talked about an approach of having an access over the railroad at some point in time to get to downtown. They talked a lot about creating spaces for community and what this would look like. Creating a pedestrian plaza for people to eat and drink and mingle for not only the residents who live there, but also the community. They also talked about creating a space in such a way that it recognizes all the natural elements that we have out here in Troutdale. So capitalizing on the river views, but also recognizing the fact that we have the east wind, we have rain that blows sideways sometimes during the winter, and ice storms. So they talked about that in their presentation and talked about how they would look at all of those elements through the design process. Once again, this is just another rendering of creating community space. And as you can see here in what Ray had just showed you with the outlook over the river, they've kind of incorporated what that could look like from the trail and within the site development itself. So connecting to nature, utilizing the trail, recognizing kind of, the nature that surrounds the area and how we get there. So the path that goes to Lewis and Clark State Park, and then all the different paths that you could take to downtown and whatnot. So they've included multifamily residential as part of their development type for this site. They are looking at a little over 300 total units. But once again, this is just a really high-level concept plan. This could all change in the future. And what this rendering shows is that those multifamily residential units would be incorporated in 5 different buildings, and they're looking at kind of like walk-up apartment-style buildings as well as mixed-use commercial as well, with commercial on the bottom, residential on top, and it would be more of an elevator. They would have an elevator in those buildings. They have showed townhomes, around 60 different townhomes on the site. And then about 35,000 square feet of dining, commercial, and retail spaces. And a hotel. It's about 70,000 square feet, 130 rooms. That could also occupy a pub or a nice restaurant as well. Looking at their financial capacity, and I'm going to get to a couple slides here in just a minute, they did show a phased approach and timelines to this development. They structured the approach to infrastructure and vertical development design. And then, you know, part of their team, they talked about their engagement is with, you know, seasoned investors and development firms. You have Time Equities in particular. They bring a lot of capital investment and experience. So in their RFQ proposal, they showed an overall project schedule. We had asked for this in the RFQ process itself. And, you know, this is all subject to change, but, you know, it's really nice that they're thinking ahead and could provide us at least a tentative, you know, guideline of what they think the timeline could be over time if they successfully move forward with such a project. And we talked about during the interview process about the site phasing approach. Everything you see here that's shaded in that orange shade, that's areas A, B, and C. That would be the first areas slated for development. And then you see the road and the access network in there. And I wish I had a pointer, because we asked them during the interview process about access through the Columbia Gorge Outlet Mall. Oh, thank you so much, Sarah.
The top one there.
I'm just gonna hit it. No, it's not working. It's okay. I think I can use my pointer. I can. So we talked about access through the mall, and in the RFP, great, shine it. So in the RFP proposal itself, they did talk about this access, and that they were willing to have a conversation about this access with the city and community of possibly putting a road through this area. And during the interview process, we asked them specifically what phase would that road be in? Phase 1, phase 2, what would that look like? And it's not shown on the slide, but during the interview process, they talked about if it's really going to be feasible, it would be part of the first phase. So I just want to make that clear. In their proposal, they talk a lot about community engagement and how they're going to engage with the community over time. And they provided 6 steps here on how they would do that. And they shared a lot about their experiences. Ethos did, working with communities and coming up with vision plans and getting to projects that communities feel comfortable with, and getting them, through the planning process in and of itself. So with that, I would like to kind of turn this over to our Vice Chair of TCAB to talk about their recommendation.
Okay. Good evening. A couple things. First, I'd like to do a little bit of a history lesson. For many people, this started in 2006 with the Troutdale Riverfront Renewal Plan, and then the Urban Renewal Bond happens after that. And this goes on for a period of time, and then in 2017, the council tasked the Troutdale Town Center Committee. And that group was made up of 22 people of vastly different visions, directions, and ideas. That group worked for 3 years to develop a town center plan that came out in 2020. And that plan is something that we've used many times so far. And I'd also like to thank Councilor Leamy for being part of that group for 3 years. It took longer, but I think in the end, the city got what it wanted. And then we go up to 2023. We saw our first RFQ. And then you entered into an ENA. And then for a multitude of reasons, that didn't work out. So then we get to where we're at today. And the Town Center Advisory Committee has reviewed this and interviewed and talked with Ecos Development and their team, and finds that they fit with majority of what is laid out in the plan as far as a team that could do the job and develop it to the quality and the standards that the city's looking for. And, although the proposal meets many objectives of the plan, there are some things that obviously it doesn't. And some of that, is things change over time. But we do feel strongly that this team does meet it, and it's also, frankly, a kind of refreshing position to see where Time Equities is now. Time Equities took a little stronger approach with us in the past, and they're willing to discuss access. And that's really kind of a game changer. That kind of flips things from one side to the other. And we feel that the city should proceed forward. And we also feel very strongly, we did not take a vote on this, but we feel strongly that if access through the mall is not obtainable, the city should consider stepping back and looking at this. As possibly looking at something different. Because it would change substantially, what we've promised people for the last 20 years. And I do think that's something that we really have to consider. Things change, and there's other things that don't change. But we felt all along that our goal is to try to meet the vision that the communities had for that site and try to bring that to reality as best we can.
Just a couple things to add, things that the committee definitely talked about is that while there is a very strong recommendation from TCAB that this is a solid team and we want to move forward with this, there's also, just because life is life, the economy is economy, we do want to make sure that there is an understanding that for communication and progress updates, and that the key things that are part of this proposal that we feel make it so strong, such as the community engagement and the connections to the existing downtown and the idea of the extension of downtown, that we all stay on top of that. Because there, as Tanny said, there are key things that are part of that if they don't come through, this turns into a substantially different project. And that may call for a reevaluation at that time. But I definitely concur with the idea that this is an extremely strong team. The difference in feel from the first round of what we saw from Ethos during the first RFQ and what we saw in the second RFQ is, I think I'm correct in saying it's a night and day difference. the attention and the commitment that we're seeing out of that team is genuinely refreshing.
Great.
Let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for us?
Questions?
I do. The walkway, it says it's a proposed walkway. How realistic is that to get that as part of this plan?
For the walkway, are you referring to the?
Across the tracks.
Across the track.
Tracks?
I see that as something, if you're gonna link the city to that development, it's critical to have that in the plan.
So I think that's a long-term vision, and we're gonna have to work with, again, the railroad on that issue, which could take some time. They did recognize the need for the city's vision to ultimately maybe put in a parking garage in that location as well. That could also serve, it could also have a bridge over the railroad, like a pedestrian bridge over the railroad tracks for connection. I think the city and this team recognizes that another access to downtown in that location would be beneficial. It's just getting there with all the partners, with all the stakeholders.
Do they express interest in that, or is that something you see as maybe come across as hesitant on their?
No, I think they expressed interest in that
Yeah, they
during the
definitely.
interview process.
They definitely expressed interest, but they like us recognize the extremely complicated reality of pulling that off. So as with any team, right, they're going to be a little cagey about it, but they definitely did see the importance just because of the centrality of how connections fit into their proposal. I think that they understand the importance of it.
When you look at this and even the access and some of the things that have been talked about since 2006, some of those are consistent all the way through. And although, economics, needs, things like that have changed over the years, but when you stop and think about it, you still have to get from point A to point B. Access is still important. And for the next foreseeable future, people are still going to be driving cars. That need is going to be there. And also, keep in mind that as we develop this, we have a substantial need for higher end housing. And I'll just say that the town center committee was never big on apartments. And some of these things may have to be massaged, but we also have to keep in mind that just because it was an idea then doesn't mean it's not a viable idea now. And maybe sometimes finding a way to bridge those is the difficult part.
I remember when we started this, what was it, 06, 07? The idea of a walkway to the center of that site was, well, it wasn't even a walkway. We were going to try to do a bridge. And it was so, first of all, the elevation difference is huge. And a bridge was going to cost like $10 million. It was just plus subject to being not a very safe place with the winds and the winter and ice, and that'll be a problem with the walkway. So, but maybe a walkway is at least a little more feasible. But it was the only way I remember hearing that it was even remotely feasible was to build a multi-story parking lot on the north side and have the walkway come from our streets, and that takes care of the elevation difference, but not an easy thing, very expensive. So I guess I'm just saying, I'm with you. It would be great to have the connection with downtown, But a walkway is, has been a challenge. I think, what did you call it, an aspiration or?
Aspirational long-term vision, I think we all recognize the fact that it would be beneficial. It would, create another access point to connect downtown to that site.
But it's, unfortunately hard to do. Carol, you had something?
A couple of questions was, one, I remember being on TCAB discussing the concern about having a lot of apartments down there. And then, so I'm apprehensive on 340 apartments, but the other one was the townhomes. We had discussed at one time that we wanted the townhomes to be homeowners. Now, if I remember correctly, they weren't willing to do that. Is that my understanding during that interview process? I was on my phone, and teaching at the same time, so.
Yeah, so we broached that subject with them. I don't think they really came. They didn't really have a resolution for us on that issue of home ownership for the townhomes. They said that it's something that they could think about in the future, but their overall vision, for the site is to have really the multifamily and the townhomes to be really, cohesive under, one ownership.
And then the other concern that I had was the walkway where we're not right up against somebody's or some business, that we have time when we walk against that Sandy River, that there's space there instead of being right up against somebody's apartment or somebody's business. Is there going to be enough space? I mean, I was looking at the maps, but I'm not that.
Right.
It's just not my forte. So.
Yeah, and so I just want to re-emphasize this fact that, the renderings that are showed through this team are really concept level, they're high level, things could change. And things will change because they'll get additional information. But those things, such as, creating a buffer from the river, softening the edges, both on the railroad side and along the side of I-84, and frankly, the backside of the outlet mall, the site plans will really come through working with the community, gathering community input on how that's gonna look like, and through the planning process.
John?
So Zach and I were both able to be on that committee. And a couple of things have changed over time. One is the access through the mall. The timing is right. They told us that the first quarter of next year is, if it's going to happen, it has to happen. So the refinancing, and through that, they'll be able to negotiate up, which is something that kind of tied them up a little bit in the past. That's their attitude. And then they really strongly want to connect with the community, get community input. So what we're seeing on their diagrams, community is going to have a lot of say-so, according to them, in how it all finalizes. But yes, he said they weren't really hot on the idea of home ownership. That was kind of not where they wanted to go. And one other thing is the hotel. NATO, the NATOs are developing that very strong in hotels and stuff. I'm really confident that we'll get a high-end quality product over there on that side.
Glenn?
So, I know the first time the hotel was proposed, they were kind of saying, well, it might have to become apartments. So that's not the conversation this time.
Yeah, in the previous RFQ process, they did not have an identified hotel developer as part of their development team. And that's what's different about this proposal, is they have identified and included in their qualifications the hotel developer. And so I think when we previously went through that process, that was the uncertainty, is would they find someone interested in doing that element of it? And as they have found that, they have removed any indication that that would potentially become multifamily.
Yeah, just to add to that, I had a chance to talk to the NATOs for a good long time over lunch, and they were both very excited about the idea of a hotel there, and they've done a similar type hotel and a similar type development, so they thought there was great potential. Oh yeah, they did the one in Hood River. Hood River, that's right on the river there. So they thought this was another great possibility for, so they seem a lot of energy in a hotel there on that north and east corner.
I agree, it seems like a really solid team, especially the hotel component. It'd be nice if we could talk them into a conference room, because that only helps the rest of the town, you know, it attracts visitors. And we're a nice restaurant at the hotel would be another thing I would like to see, if at all possible. What's the largest building height down there?
75.
75, yeah.
Is that what they're planning on building?
We don't have building elevation proposals from them at this time. I do think that they might indicate the number of stories for the multifamily, and it's 5.
There was a 5-story building.
What the code allows for is 55 with no variance and up to 75 with a variance, because of the elevation change between downtown and the URA site. I'll also note that in their renderings, the water tower that they use is not to scale. So our water tower is much taller than what they're showing on theirs. Our water tower is 120 feet, and I feel like that's worth noting because that makes it look like the buildings are gonna be skyscrapers if we all know how big that structure is, so.
I really liked the plan we recently approved from TCAB. I know Marley, you were involved in that. But, I guess the thing to do, and we also like Capstone's project, is to try to, some of the stuff they were gonna do, you know, because they really have a good handle on getting local success stories and get them down there, you know. And, it also creates a lot more jobs than like apartments do. But, you know, I know everything's kind of changed on us. I think they're a really good, solid team, and it's in their best interest to gain access to the mall, and I'm worried that might be our own chance of ever getting it. So I do see that. Still think, if it just all turns out to be apartments, I think some people might not be as happy with that, so.
Just a reminder, it is a concept plan.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of changes and iterations and things, and a lot of that's going to fall on you guys, sadly. And, it's a fine line between a good development and a not so good development, a fine line between incentives and giving away the farm and all of those types of things. So there's got to be a lot of very difficult decisions that will have to be made going forward for the city.
I add a little bit to what Danny just said. I had the opportunity to have lunch with the old guys got to sit together, the oldest acquisition employee for Time Equities. And he knew all of the constraints on the ground. He was very emphatic that things do need to move quickly. If you look back at their time frame, that they have 30 days for an ENA and then 30 days, I think, to get to a full-blown DDA, Development Disposition Agreement. That's very quick, but he was very emphatic that they knew what they wanted to do in terms of getting through this process. But for January, first quarter of next year, that is their only opportunity to get the refinancing to incorporate whatever width of access is going to be, but however it's going to be built out. So they're going to need time for their design team to put that together and get it through. And they have the ability to do all that, but it means we have to be responsive, receptive, and get it going. And I'm looking at those 2 months that are coming up, and council doesn't meet too many times over the summer. So we do need to tell folks, tell staff, everybody to move it forward and get talking, if that's what you decide to do.
Right. Jeffrey, did you want to ask a question? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't have any questions right now. Thank you, though.
All right. Well, we are going to hold a public hearing on this, and so I'll open a public, what we're going to do is, following this agenda item, is vote on, as an agency, on whether we want to move forward
Can I make
with
one
the,
more comment
yes.
before I switch to that? On the negative side, the rendering that they've shown of square footage of commercial space also includes 2 buildings in the middle of the outlet mall. So it looks like they're getting a lot of retail space, but you need to subtract out what is in the middle of the parking lot. We're not getting as much as it looks like. Anyway, that's it.
Chair Redmond, I just want to make one point for clarification. I did attend the March 6th walking tour in addition to staff and the developers.
Anyway, after I'll have a public hearing, and then we'll be considering, we can still talk about it all we want, but we'll be deciding whether we want to select the development team to move forward with the exclusive negotiating agreement. So if there's no other questions, I'll open a public hearing now and start with anyone on Zoom who wishes to address the agency on this matter?
Mayor Ridma, Paul Wilcox, Troutdale.
Yes, Paul.
Was there someone else in there?
I didn't follow. You're on.
Okay, I'll go ahead. I'm going to start with a verbatim quote from the November 2024 voters pamphlet. Quote, "My top priority is reversing the previous council's decision to turn the 20-acre waterfront property behind the outlet malls into private commercial and residential developments. A decision that would deprive Troutdale of a beautiful green space and only serve to line the pockets of the developers. Instead, I propose transforming this land into a public park." Unquote. This, of course, was the primary message in Councilor Davidson's voters pamphlet statement. Considering that nearly 2,000 Troutdale citizens elected Councilor Davidson on that basis, I would expect him to adhere to their expectation and oppose any commercial or residential development at the Confluence. I don't think this is realistic, and I didn't vote for him, but apparently a large number of local residents would prefer an alternative use for the property. Thank you.
All right, Paul, I've discussed this with Councilor Davidson a few times, including my welcoming you to the council, and that was, the problem is, I'll just say, I can't resist saying, the problem is we need to sell the land to someone for money, and we haven't found, we don't have anyone willing to buy it for a park. That is a practical matter, is the problem. But we welcome all ideas along those lines. Yes, Ray?
Yeah, and as much as I appreciate the desire for more public park land, I find it interesting that Mr. Wilcox believes that all 2,000 voters were one-issue voters, and that's the only reason they voted for Councilor Davidson, which is an odd position to take. But despite that, the city would struggle to turn that into parkland because we already have, with the pathway, about $12 million invested into this property from the general fund and from grants. And if it was turned into public parkland, we would have to invest at least $20 to $30 million to develop it appropriately because it is such a large parcel. And then the general fund would have to pay for staffing and equipment to maintain a 16-acre park in the middle city, which would add, again, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to our general fund budget. So as much as that's a great idea, when it comes to financial impact on the city's general fund, it does not really pencil out when there's no outside investor who wants to turn it into a park either. So those are the struggles the city would have if it wanted to turn that into parkland.
I'd love to see it a park, but it also, I point out, would not pay any taxes. It would not repay the financing of this district. That would all fall on the Troutdale voters, and well, we wouldn't be able to afford it. It's unfortunate, but true. Anyway, but a worthwhile comment and an important one. Anybody else on Zoom wish to address us on this matter before the Urban Renewal Agency? I'm not seeing anybody. How about here in chambers? Anybody wish? Diane?
Hello, Diane Steele White, Troutdale, and I was on the Town Center Committee and TCAB. And the only point I want to emphasize here is something Carol had brought up. We had been selling this as something that's going to be an awesome experience for those who live in Troutdale. And I understand that we're going to have to compromise. There's going to be apartments. I'm hoping we're going to have townhouses that are for sale. But I think to give the citizenry that experience, I also say that the bottom floors would be great if it was, we're not looking like we walked into somebody's neighborhood. And I think they could get really creative to not allow that to happen. It looked like they were trying to set back some things and such. But bottom floors could be very creative, like things that give us a Northwest experience, like rent e-bikes, just get really creative with it. So we're walking past things that are something that the citizens may use first, the tourists will love. And then those things also, anybody who's living there will also enjoy as well for the experience. So I'm just advocating when you're looking at designs and stuff, this is something we had talked about. I'm speaking for myself, but this has been brought up over and over again. That we really want it to be an experience for the citizens of Troutdale and not feel like we're walking into somebody's neighborhood. And other than that, I was very impressed with their presentation. I'm glad they brought the architect they brought in and such, and I'm excited about the opportunity that we may get to have that opening connection. Also, not knowing if we're going to get that overhead walkway, I would like them to also have a lot of pathways to the trail that goes underneath the bridge that connects to downtown. Like that might be our only connection possibility, to make sure that's well thought out and it looks pleasant, buffer green and such, so that we can make good use of that trail for the connection. They could get creative with the golf cart or whatever, but just make sure we enhance that connection in all areas. Another thing is, they were talking not about possibly doing a convention component because it looks like they were really wanting the parking space for the hotel to possibly be used by people who come to visit, anticipating that the people who come to the hotel may take off for the day, go explore the gorge or wherever else they may go, and that parking may be available to the people that come to visit there. So that's just something to keep in mind for adequate parking, because we know our parking is tight in downtown Troutdale. We want people that come here too to also visit Troutdale, but I understand too, there's always the Lewis and Clark Park. There's also that other parking that's across that, we have all those nice connections that are also on the other side of the river. But just want you to keep all that in mind so that we have something creative, beautiful, and And then I don't know when the TCAB might also get a moment to check in and just say, hey, where are you guys at? What does it look like? I know you're time constraint, but that would be nice if we just say, I know we do need to do public outreach, but if we all say, hey, this is looking good, and we might get an opportunity to look to make sure our intent and excitement and what we envisioned is seen in the finals. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to make public comment on this item? All right, well, seeing no others, I'll close the public hearing. The agenda item 4.2 was the Town Center Advisory Board's recommendation. Their recommendation was to proceed with the what's called the development team, which is the Ethos, Time Equities, NATO, and Hacker, and Bremick. So unless there's any further discussion, I'm going to go on to, basically it's agenda item 6.1 or 4.3 as we're calling it, and decide whether we want, consider a vote on a resolution selecting the development team for an exclusive negotiating agreement. Yes?
I should probably just state that a park for this was my dream, and that's why I ran for council. There's nothing I would like to see more than something like Riverfront Park, which is where I grew up in Spokane, that all the community members could come congregate on the weekends with their families and just enjoy life. But getting on council and realizing that there's a lot more moving pieces, our budget is not in a situation to support something like that. The police contract, the fire contract, there's just no money. You know, I had long talks with Ray about how something like that would work without reaching out to the public and asking them to pay to buy this area for a park. There's just no way to do it. So I apologize to the people of Troutdale who voted for me specifically for that. And I apologize. But in the situation we're in, could be something we could work with them to create more public space along the Sandy River, not have the buildings come up the Sandy River. So yeah, it's not option one. It's not my favorite option, but it is an option where maybe we can develop that into some other public space that our community members can use.
Well, thank you, Jesse. I appreciate that. If someone had come forward saying, someone meaning, I don't know, the federal government, we need a park right there, and we got enough money to buy it from the city of Troutdale and put a park there. Well, absent that, it just wasn't feasible. But I do think, and I think we talked about this when I welcomed you onto the council, at least between us, that it was obvious that people voted for you because they liked that idea, and we all like it. We're doing the best we can, folks. We're putting in an absolutely beautiful riverfront park, and we're trying to make the rest of it as much an amenity and asset to Troutdale as is possible.
Hey, Dave, could I say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mirror what Jesse said. And to Paul's comments, I think I've been I'm not the biggest proponent of it, but I've been trying to get some sort of park. And I think the reality of it is that one, there's not enough money for that. And two, it's in the end, we have to think about what's best for Troutdale and what's best for Troutdale in the long run. And, that tax revenue from that, I think will be really beneficial to the city in the long run, even though something like that would have been great. And so I think we all love that idea, but what's best for Troutdale is what I'm thinking about. And I think moving forward with something like this is, again, in the best interest of Troutdale. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Jeffrey. Any other comments?
Well,
Carol?
I would like to say that, I've been to the river, to Vancouver, where they have the restaurants, they have the apartments above, and there's that whole walkway. So that's what I was kind of visioning, is just having that walkway. And if you have that walkway, I've taken grandchildren there, and it's a place to run. It's a place to be near the water. And so it gives you a whole different feeling. It gives you like you belong. And I don't live in Vancouver, but when I go there, I feel like I belong because it's right there. I'm in the community and they have different functions. And so that's why I was saying is it's really important to me that we have that area that our families can run and that we could bike and that we can do things. I think that will be part of the negotiation when we talk with them, and when the community comes together, the community is going to say that. I mean, the community, I have full trust that the community is going to say, I have children here, where are my children going to go? They're going to bring up those issues, and there might be areas in which they can have a little family park with the apartment complex. So, I mean, I just think that there's other ways that we can meet the need if our community comes and talks.
Excellent. All right.
Okay, I'll be brief. I think it is already a success. Those pictures Ray showed us from the trail were pretty breathtaking, and 4 acres out of 20 is going to be utilized for that trail, not counting the riparian zone, which will always be there and protected. And to me, we got the icing off the cake on this deal. But I would like to ask that TCAB realize that this is a negotiation. They kind of asked for their dream proposal. It's less risk for them and something that I feel would be very profitable. But I think we have to negotiate back and kind of look at the last plan that we just recently approved for that site and see what is something that we feel it's worth fighting for. And also looking at the capstone plan too, which was what we did approve. Fortunately, it didn't work out because of the access. But hopefully there's a little more room for negotiating on this deal. I think we're off to a good start. I think having that trail, I think, is really help people realize the vision down there, because it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, look, okay, we'll move on to the, what I'm looking for. I don't think it's in the packet. We don't have a written out motion, do we?
I was just looking for that.
But basically, I'm inviting a motion to select the development team, which is the Ethos, Time Equities, NATO, Hacker, and Bremick, as set out by the staff. That's the development team to engage in exclusive negotiations with the Urban Renewal Agency. That would be the motion. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Yeah, Mayor, if I could explain, what that means is we will then go into an exclusive negotiation to get the agreement, and the written agreement will come back to the URA board to approve. So you're just telling staff to go get that agreement ready to go and bring it back, and you'll get to approve it. That's why there's no actual resolution in the packet. It will come back.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Sarah, please.
Excuse me, Director Allen,
Yes.
Director One,
Yes.
Chair Whitma,
Yes.
Director White,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Leamy.
Yes.
All right, staff has its direction, and thanks to TCAB for all your work, and fingers crossed, let's hope this goes forward the way we want it to. I'll move on to the fun part of the evening is Eric Mueller leading us through the budget matters, starting with 5.1, a public hearing, a resolution.
We're gonna, we added a 4.3 to select the committee.
No, we just did that.
Oh,
We just did that.
I thought they were gonna name committee members.
No, it's just, we are just picking the element. That was already those 5, 8 companies.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
Okay. Yeah, I want everybody to be clear what we're doing, but no, we're not picking anybody new here at this point. We're just deciding to go forward with exclusive negotiation. Staff is going to negotiate. This isn't the final decision, it's just a very important decision. Anyway, moving on to 5.1, a public hearing, a resolution adopting the Urban Renewal Agency's fiscal year 2025-26 annual budget and making appropriations. Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is similar to what we did a week ago in dealing with the city's budget. Same process. The Budget Committee for the city serves also as the Budget Committee for the Urban Renewal Agency. So we met back in April. The agency's budget was approved on the second night of our 3 nights of meetings. This meeting in June is one that I always schedule. I also had interesting business earlier in the agenda, but you always have to meet in January and June because of my budget, audit, and regulatory requirements. So this one is for us to adopt have a public hearing and then adopt a budget for the Urban Renewal Agency so that it has the ability to continue to function and pay the contractor their invoices and so forth after July 1st. The budget was published under the required form that the local budget law requires in the required time frame. I will note that the public hearing is on the budget as approved by the Budget Committee, the $6,957,347. I have included in the resolution an adjustment that switches some of the appropriation within that total from the contingency line to the debt service line. Doesn't change the overall amount of appropriations that the Budget Committee had and what was published as required. It is to allow us to continue at this point funding and the construction of the trail that Ray showed of the pictures. It's well underway, but certainly is not finished yet, and we'll be making payments, up through the fall, certainly, as they finish things out and work through the punch list. And then, if we are fortunate with your previous agenda item to get through to some sort of arrangement on an exclusive negotiating agreement that evolves into a disposition and development agreement, then there will likely be additional budget considerations that the agency will have to address later this fall. But all of that is to say that I am happy to address any questions that the council may have on the budget and the resolution for adopting the budget and approving the appropriations.
Questions from the council? I'll open a public hearing. Before we adopt, we're going to be adopting the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Troutdale's annual budget and making appropriations for the year 2025-26. So I'll open the public hearing. Anyone on Zoom wish to address the agency on this? It's the adoption of the budget. Okay. Seeing none and seeing no one in the room anymore, except staff and
Chased everybody out with my exciting agenda topics.
so I will close the public hearing, and the matter is before us. Yes.
Yes, I move adoption of a resolution adopting the Urban Renewal Agency fiscal 2025 through 2026 annual budget, and making appropriations.
I second it.
Okay, call the roll.
Director Allen?
Yes.
Director Wynn? Director Wynn?
Jeffrey? We're on. Must be some excitement at the game.
Okay. Chair Whitma?
Yes.
Director White?
Yes.
Director Davidson?
Yes.
Director Leamy?
Yes.
Jeffrey, last chance.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
Okay.
Trying to remember.
So passed unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 5.2, public hearing, a resolution imposing and the declaration of the tax increment for fiscal year 2025-26. Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just as with the city budget, the budget and then the tax levy. This is the complement in the Urban Renewal Agency, what is known as the Division of Tax, which provides the tax increment financing to be collected and repay the authorized debt of the agency. So this is the resolution that provides for that, declares the increment, and provides the basis for the county assessor to do the division of tax. And happy to address any questions regarding the resolution. I've outlined as in the budget as meetings, as well as in the staff report, the calculation estimate of 147,000 of tax increment revenue for the coming year. The hope is that in a couple of years, if we are able to be successful with development, we'll see a pretty much exponential growth in that tax increment revenue as we see new development come onto the tax rolls. But at the moment, that's what we're faced with.
Questions from the agency directors? Okay. I will have a public hearing. This is a public hearing, a resolution imposing and the declaration of the tax increment for fiscal year 2025-26 for the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Troutdale. I open the public hearing. Anyone on Zoom wish to address the agency on this? Seeing none and seeing no one in the room, I will close the public hearing and the matters before us. Go ahead.
Okay, so I make a motion to adopt the resolution imposing and the declaration of the tax increment for fiscal year 2025 and 2026.
A second.
All right. Jeffrey. And we'll now take a vote.
Director Allen?
Yes.
Director Wynn?
Yes.
Chair Whitma?
Yes?
Director White?
Yes.
Director Davidson?
Yes.
Director Leamy?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 5.3, a resolution approving the Fourth Amendment to the Troutdale Riverfront Renewal Plan to extend the plan duration. Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the third time that you folks have seen this particular topic. It was brought to the City Council, first reading and second reading and adoption. It is to amend the plan duration as is outlined and detailed in the attachment to the resolution. Moves the expiration of the deadline to incur the debt that is available to be repaid through the tax increment from 20 years to 30 years. You saw it twice, as I say, under the City Council for the ordinance because of the nature of the urban renewal statutes and the adopted requirements in order to make amendments to the plan. There's different classifications in terms of types of amendments. This particular type requires an ordinance by the City Council and then also a resolution by the agency. The City Council has already approved the ordinance, and this is sort of the final step for the agency to approve the same amendment to the plan by resolution. So with that, I am happy to address any questions that the agency board may have.
And the extension is for an additional 10 years.
Correct. Moves it from 20 years to 30 years.
All right. Any questions? All right. Well, it's a public hearing, and we'll be voting on a resolution approving the Fourth Amendment to the Troutdale Riverfront Renewal Plan to extend the plan duration. I'll open the public hearing. Anyone on Zoom wish to address the agency on this? Seeing no one, and we now have someone in the audience. Gloria, oh, she shakes her head. So there is no one in the room that wishes to address the agency. So I will close the public hearing and the matters before us.
So I make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the Fourth Amendment to the Troutdale Riverfront Renewal Plan to extend the plan duration another 10 years.
Second.
All right, very good. Sarah?
Director Allen.
Yes.
Director Wund.
Yes.
Chair Whitman.
Yes.
Director White.
Yes.
Director Davidson.
Yes.
And Director Lee.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you, Eric. Before we adjourn, there is one additional announcement that Ray wants to make.
Yes, for everyone here and on Zoom and in the public, that on Monday evening from 6 to 8 o'clock at the Sam Cox Building in Glen Auto Park, we will be having an open house meet and greet for the 4 finalists for the city manager job. And so we'd love to have everyone there, a chance to meet them. I understand the agency helping us is gonna have a little program that evening, or at least have it organized a little bit. So on Monday night, 6 to 8 o'clock, everybody in the city can come meet the 4 candidates.
And I'll add, I originally didn't think the council was supposed to go to that, but I'm assured that we are both welcome and encouraged to go. We'll get to meet informally the 4 candidates and see their interactions with the public, and we'll also get to meet our fellow citizens. So it's going to be a good thing. And that's at the Sam Cox Building, Monday, the 23rd, I believe is the date. At the Sam Cox Building. So I would now welcome a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. However, for those of us who are here, we have an executive session to proceed with, so don't get up and leave except on.
And there is a separate Zoom link for that meeting.
Chase you out.
Oh, that's right. Jeffrey, yeah, you need to re-log in.
Okay, I'll hop over to the other ones.